Welcome to another edition of Lone Star Brahmas Inside the Bullpen. And now, here's your host, Nick Merritt.
Inside the Bullpen for another episode here. Lots of breaking news right off the bat. We welcome you in. Nick, Chad, Walt, we are here, and the Brahmas coaching staff is going to look a little different in this next season.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. Change is something that we have not had a whole lot of in the first 3 years in the NAL. So,
good point.
We've had the same equipment manager. We've had a little bit of roulette with trainers, but the same equipment manager, the same head coach, same assistant coach.
Yep.
This is new.
So our Inside the Bullpen presented by Acme Brick breaking news. Jeff Potter moving on to the USHL. He's going to Youngstown Phantoms to be their new assistant coach. Obviously, the Brahmas had a pretty good pipeline with Youngstown of getting players. Sebastian Vidmar came from there. Tyler Drevich came from there. Alex Carl came from there. Many others made their way through. Yes, true. Connor O'Brien and Brandon Estes, both obviously owned, but I guess they didn't come through there, but they're still owned with Youngstown. Right. So there's a connection there. So it's great to see a coach like Jeff Potter move up. We have wish him obviously all the best. I know everybody's going to miss him too from our front office staff side. But, hey, it's not just about players moving up. It's about coaches, about employees, it's about whoever else, a part of this organization moving on and moving up to bigger things. So big congrats to him. That's in lieu of the Al Rooney news of being the new assistant coach, which we saw, roughly about, almost a month ago. So there's some pretty big
good
shakeups.
News because Al, when he's available, he participates last year he would participate in team practices.
Yep.
He'd get out there. So he was in the mix. He was in coaching meetings with Dan and Jeff. So
heck yeah.
It's great that we've got a guy who already gets it.
Right.
Just jump right in the seat.
Knows Dan, knows his style.
Yes.
Doesn't have to feel it out.
Yeah.
Can jump right in
and I mean it's a perfect situation. Now for Potter, a lot of people don't know much about him. He's kind of the secret quiet guy. I mean, when we give speeches or something at an event, most of the time it's Dan doing it. I mean, he'll say a few words here and there. When we do an interview on a podcast or something, it's him. Right. Dan usually. Other than Walt talking to him in between periods, when Dan's either too pissed or or too busy, you don't get to see a lot of Jeff Potter. And let me tell you, he has been the architect of this team for the past 3 years. Not to diminish anything that Dan Walfong brings to the table, but the guy is a freak about watching hockey film.
Yes.
I mean, how many times have you been in his office, whether it be before a game, during an intermission, after a game, or whatever, and what's he doing? He's sitting there watching another game on that TV.
Yep.
It's like a sickness. It's like it's his drug, and he has to watch these hockey games. He scouts these guys. He's been absolutely influential in the draft, helping bring some of the stud players that we've had.
Yes.
And so we're a little leery without him. Good thing we got the team pretty much built for this year.
True. So thanks, Jeff, for making our team. We appreciate it with Dan and Al.
Yeah, absolutely. But, the pipeline's still there. I mean, he will
he's gonna be
like, oh, this guy's not really,
right.
You're the 8th D-man at Youngstown. Why don't you
go to Lone Star?
Lone Star, you get some PT and then whatever. I don't know. Thoughts? Yeah. Walt, what's your thoughts?
No, absolutely. I've really enjoyed being around Jeff this past year. I think he's an incredible hockey mind. Love talking any form of hockey with him. He just knows his stuff inside and out and has been an immense help to this organization. But then transitioning, and he will be very successful at Youngstown. Transitioning that, the day the news broke, I went down to the locker room and a couple guys were hanging around. And I put this on my own personal Twitter account, but the guys were all raving about it. They're like, yeah, I think it's a great move. Everyone knows Potter's a great recruiter, but everyone, Dalton Skelly told me Al's probably overqualified for the position. And then a couple of goalies who Al worked with specifically reached out to me, and then even Corbin Kaspersky put on Twitter, couldn't agree more. So it's very clear that the belief in Al Rooney is there from former Brahma players. So I think that's going to be... Yeah.
Hey, in a selfish front, Potter was the best golfer on our staff, and now with him gone, that moves me up the ladder. So
That's true. Who's number 2 then behind you? Rick?
Rick.
Dan?
No, Rick.
Okay.
I mean, no disrespect, Dan,
Yeah, no, I got you.
but I think it's Rick.
Well, that's good. Well, obviously, so again, to recap, Jeff Potter moving up to assistant coach Youngstown, sliding in his spot as the assistant coach and recruiter as well will be Al Rooney from our NA3 head coach promotion, and then sliding back into Al's vacant spot at the NA3 helm is Michael Hill, who has NAHL experience with Topeka. He played there. He also played in St. Norbert with Storm Walrab, Romanuchin, and TJ Black, former Brahmas, and now he's taken over the Texas Junior Brahmas realm. So that's the coaching carousel. Sorry for getting this out delayed. We had to wait to share, obviously, until everything was finalized, but obviously we did know about this leading into right before the NAHL draft to give you a timeline of kind of how long it took for this whole shakeup to go down. But obviously Potter knew he was moving on. He helped us with the draft. Al was there in the draft. All the guys were together. Michael came in shortly thereafter, and everything's been pretty smooth sailing. So should be an exciting season, but that takes us right into some big news too. Since we're talking about Jeff, one of the players he was monumental in bringing in was Cam Clark. And Clark became our second NHL draft pick this past summer, which is huge
Second
news.
in a row.
Second in a row. Only the first time since the Tornado did that in 03, 04, and 05. They had a three-peat back-to-back years of players drafted out of the null. This is not including alumni. But yeah, it's huge. Obviously, Dan was monumental in bringing in Kupski, from my understanding, and Clark was monumental in bringing in Clark. So those are, our coaching staffs are finding talent. It's huge.
Did any of us have him on our 3 players to watch at the beginning of the year?
Absolutely not.
We didn't. We didn't.
Well,
Man.
There's a reason none of us are scouts or coaches.
No.
Pretty much. But so the Boston scout was here 4 or 5 times.
Probably more than that.
Yeah, probably more than that. So
hey, he flew out his boss, which is the GM, to come be like, you got to look at this kid. Sure enough, Clark 5th round of Boston.
And I think I can just quickly hit on this. What Potter was telling me was that the Detroit Red Wings were going to pick Clark at the 136th pick. The very next pick, if it had fallen back to them, they were taking Potter.
Wait, he went 136.
I'm sorry, Clark. Or then it would have been 137.
Oh, wow. Were
They had
back-to-back?
the pick behind Boston, and they had
That's funny.
They
I
had
didn't
said
realize
to him,
that.
"We're going to take you if you're still on the table." And then, of course, he's off the table. So either way, he would have been an original 6 team, right?
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah,
would have been
those
cool.
are only 2 of, I think, 12 teams that we even know of that looked at it. And probably maybe every team did. Who knows?
So a note to the players coming into this year's team, there is a track record of NHL scouts being at these games.
True.
They are watching, so could be one of you next year.
Yeah, not only NHL, but we saw obviously on the NAHL's website they had a record for NCAA commits this past year. So it keeps going up, and so do we. So it keeps going up. Yeah, actually, we're probably a big reason for that too. I think from year one we went from 2 NCAA Division I to 12 or 14 this past year.
Thanks, Jeff
Nuts.
Potter.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Man, they did some big things. But I guess we'll segue that to a little bit of, since we previewed next year's team, Walt, we did have open camp. I know you got to watch a little more than I did, but anything special going on here at NITEX over that weekend?
I think it was great to see the players from last year's roster back in ice action. You had guys out there like Brandon Estes, who we do anticipate being in Youngstown this year. Troy York was out there, and I thought he looked head and shoulders better than most of the camp, which you would expect. You want your guys who were on the team last year to look better than everyone else who's coming in attempting to fight for a spot. John Zimmerman as well was out there. And then you had a couple of NA3 guys, and one who I'm really looking forward to seeing in the fall is Bennett Weicker, the Appleton, Wisconsin native, was on the NA3 team last year. I think we're expecting him to be there again this year. Spoke with his new bench boss, Michael Hill, about him and said, man, I'm excited to see what this kid can do physically, because he's just night and day in terms of the shape he was in last year and he is in now. He can throw his weight around and was just motoring kids on the ice out there. So very excited to see Bennett in the fall.
Fill me in, because I'm a little lost. I mean, I know some of the NA3 guys. What was he? He was a scoring forward?
He was a depth forward last year. was out there probably playing third, fourth line minutes most of the time, but now that he's honing in on his skill set, he's going to display that he's more than just a physical player.
But here's what we talk about, too. Obviously, Bennett's the grind-out kind of player, but Walt brought up the point and then actually asked Michael Hill, so you could kind of talk about this, too, a little bit, about, hey, are you going to let Bennett go this year? Because obviously Al kind of wanted to keep the ship real under control, no penalties, no fighting, and that might change.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael's mindset on that, he said, I'm not going to let him go out there and just fight a kid just to try and spark some momentum because there's plenty of other more tactical ways to go about that. But he said, make no mistake, if we're winning a game big or if we're down a game big and one of our guys get run from behind or something inappropriate, he said, I will let him potentially go. And again, that's something that we did not see all of last year. That's one of Al Rooney's mindsets and no fighting from his players.
Yep.
So seems it might be a little bit different this year with Michael Hill under direction.
It's not Dan Walfong's mindset.
No,
so.
Nope, definitely not. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
No, I'm a big pro fighting guy, but I can see both sides of the argument for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think as far as controlling a team goes, Al Rooney did about as good a job as anybody can do in organized hockey over the past couple of years, keeping his team. Weren't they the least penalized?
Yes, by far.
By far. Unbelievable. So, hey, there you go. We'll see.
Yeah. If you guys haven't checked out the podcast schedule, we give our thoughts on the NAHL schedule, specifically the Lone Star Brahmas schedule. Be sure to check that out. And in lieu of the schedule talks we just did last week, looking at some of the promotions that could be coming up, I think one of the big things this year will be the presence of specialty jerseys.
Yeah. I think we had a meeting with the owner yesterday and really hashed that out. I think part of the problem last year was we just all get so busy. And we get so busy, and it's not just the NAHL Brahmas. There's the NA3, there's the junior leagues. Everything kind of, before you know it, you're midway thugh the season, and it's too late to get any jersey auctions going. But
right.
I think we had talked about St. Patrick's Day jersey. We're going to be back with the pink in the rink
Nice.
thing this year, so that'll be cool. And then you can always count on a military jersey. This will be the 10th year of the military appreciation nights at the NITEC Sports Center. So I think the jersey auction for that one, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, will be against Shreveport. So
True.
not to forecast, but going back to the 2010-11 season, we had a military appreciation night against Shreveport here. That was their last year in the Central Hockey League. And in that game, we had about 200 minutes of penalties. At one point in time, we had 4 Brahmas in the box. Not that
Standing room only.
Yeah, it was crowded. That was a fun one. Not that we're trying to promote that or expect that to happen, and then we got a couple other ideas floating around. I don't know if we want to really broadcast them. We'll see if they come to light or not.
I like that. Well, hey, the fans got enough. They saw they got the schedule. They know the coaching changes. That means, man, Brahmas season right around the corner. Mm-hmm. Our main camp coming up in Detroit on July 22nd weekend. That's going to be held in Michigan. And then right after that, the players, I believe, their first report August 21st is the tentative date here at NITEC. So Brahmas hockey is almost here.
Walt, what are you thinking for the on the suit front for this year? You were a big hit last year with the suits. I think your most popular one was my favorite, the $100 bills.
That one will be tough to beat, and I think I'm going to have to bring that back this year.
Absolutely.
But with all of these talk of the specialty jerseys, I've got a few ideas up my sleeve. I've done some research and going to be branching out and hope to add some more to the collection for this upcoming year.
You better
military
bring all
suit.
Last ones back.
Yeah, you got to bring them all back in the. The
Hey, you just gotta
military
keep
suit was
adding.
cool. That was a cool. The camo one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I've got something up my sleeve for that as well, and
Uh-oh.
I did.
Okay.
If we're going to dedicate that Wednesday night and Friday night to military appreciation, might be covered on both. We'll see.
Oh, all right. All right.
Well, Walt's got some spicy plans.
So is Merrick going to join Walt in the funky suit department, or are you the straight guy to his his wild man routine?
We'll see. I'd love to see Nick throw one on sometime, but I can't make any promises.
I'm pretty sure I would if they got to my sizes, so I don't want to be busting at the seams. Uncomfortable doing a broadcast. That's what held me back. I'm too big.
Wow. You guys will look like the Fastrunk brothers up there. You guys remember that from Saturday Night Live? Or am I aging
you're
myself?
dating me there.
Two wild
Yeah.
and crazy guys.
No.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. We'll end on that awkwardness, huh?
I'm over 40 years old, so this happens.
We're creeping up on that, too, though, so we aren't too far behind, I feel like, every day. But
Well, cool. We're looking forward to Walt's new suits. We're looking forward to the call this year and all these games. It's going to be awesome.
it will be. So that's it for the podcast episode presented by Acme Brick. Until next time, Brahmas season is almost here.
So.